Let me make sure I have everything working here. And so we'll just find a nice comfy seat, something that allows you to settle in. You were in practice yesterday. We did quite a bit of breath work with the Psoas. We're gonna try to continue a little of that tonight, but let's just first find a nice spot where we can settle in. There's this young boy who is progressing through school as if it's a speed run. Keeps skipping grades and skipping grades. As you find the structure within the seat, and you find that balance and spinal alignment, think about how you can find balance in your breath. A balance that not only kind of finds equivalency on both sides of the respiration, but a breath that centers you, anchors you, and grounds you into the practice. And we'll give ourselves about 30 more seconds here. Just to feel into the breath. When it feels appropriate, if the eyes are open, if the eyes are closed, let's let them open. Let's just find our way forward into a little seated fold. Whatever that shape equates to for you, just finding a little expansion of that posterior chain. Note where you're feeling restrictive or tight, where you're feeling spacious. Let's lift our way back up into a seat. Take your elbows to kind of shoulder height and bring the elbows and palms together. And we're going to try to keep this 90-degree bend in both elbows. So the goal here is to stay in this 90-degree structure. And then with an exhale, just lift your whole arm structure up, staying in that 90 degrees. And with an inhale, come back to shoulder height. Exhale, we'll lift up. And inhale back to shoulder height. 2 more times, we'll exhale up. And inhale back to shoulder height. And exhale up. And inhale back to shoulder height. Release the arms, palms up, looking for a little shoulder girdle relaxation. And with the shoulder girdle relaxed, let's just turn our head over towards the left. Draw that right shoulder back. And we'll come back to neutral. And then the same thing to the right. Left shoulder comes back. And we'll come back to neutral. And let's transition to hands and knees tabletop. Setting your tabletop, thinking about that kind of softness or spaciousness at the shoulder girdle, and thinking about developing the framework for a structured and integrated tabletop. Maintain that spinal integration as you curl your toes and roll your way back into down dog. Shift the weight back into the hips. Maybe pedal out the calves a little bit here. Thinking about that elongated spine. And then we'll come down to hands and knees tabletop, flip the tops of the feet, and sink our way back into child's pose. You land in child's pose. Note which side of the shoulder girdle is the most responsive, or responsive may not necessarily be the right word, right? Because you may not have felt a change, but which side is causing you the most shortness or experiencing the most shortness, and which side has freedom, even if that freedom is relative. We'll just give ourselves about 10 more seconds here. Really just trying to experience the shoulder girdle. And then we'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. And in tabletop, we're going to start to work on a little of this diaphragm breath and psoas connection. So exhales are going to draw the belly button up. And inhale just releases the belly button back down. A little natural curve to the lumbar as you do that, as you release. Exhale, belly button comes up. And inhale, belly button can drop away from the spine. Exhale, draw up. And inhale, you can release that down. And let's just do that 2 more times. Exhale, belly button is pulling back. We're retracting there, holding that energy. And then inhale, just releasing. When you complete your second cycle, let's curl our toes and roll back into down dog. No rush to get here. Just all meeting in down dog. Getting the weight back into the hips. And we're going to go right back to that same breath cycle. So exhales, the belly button retracts up. Inhale, belly relaxes. Exhale, belly button to the spinal column. And inhale, you relax. Let's do that 2 more times. Note how the shoulder girdle is feeling with the breath, right? Can you, as you contract in that abdominal region, is the shoulder girdle responding? Are you feeling pull or tension in the anterior or posterior chain? And then when you're done with that second cycle, let's come down to tabletop. We'll flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Settling here, rounding here, anchoring here. Thinking about the sacrum as the anchor to the shape. If it's not feeling like the anchor, thinking about how we can play with our core engagement to drive that weight back and get the shape anchored in that back end. And we'll give ourselves just 15 more seconds here. And when it feels appropriate, we'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees, tabletop. And from tabletop, we're going to add some dynamic movement and some syncing of our respiration. So we'll start out, exhale, just sink back into child's pose. Inhale, pull yourself forward to tabletop. Exhale, curl your toes, lift your seat and find down dog. Inhale to tabletop. Exhale to child's pose. Inhale to tabletop. Exhale to down dog. Inhale to tabletop. And exhale to child's pose. We're going to continue with our breath. Inhales pulling us forward to tabletop. Exhales either lifting us to down dog or sinking us into child's pose. As you move, start to think about how you can sync your breath and your movement so that the duration of your movement is mirrored with the duration of your breath, or vice versa. And really think about elongating both. Elongate the movement cycle just as you elongate that respiration cycle. Pairing our capacity to move with our breath. Let's complete 2 more full cycles here. 2 more child's pose, 2 more down dogs. And we'll all meet in child's pose. When you get back into that child's pose, just once again thinking about anchoring the shape into the sacrum. And we're just going to give ourselves 40 seconds here just to check in with our respiration, check in with our heart rate, check in with how the physicality of the body has responded to the movement we've offered thus far. And so this young man just continues to kind of fly through school, so much so that there are times when he's ahead of the teacher who's supposed to be teaching him. And that continues on. When it feels appropriate, let's pull ourselves to tabletop. And from tabletop, we're going to set the physicality of the shape first. And here, we're going to add another layer into our movement and breath with an exhale hold. So to start this out, let's just take a nice big inhale. As you exhale, draw the belly button up towards the spine. At the end of the exhale, hold the belly button in that retracted position and just sink back into child's pose. And then keeping the breath held out, draw yourself back into tabletop. And then release the breath. Draw in, let the belly drop. Exhale out. Draw the belly button up. With the breath held out, with the belly empty or the lungs empty, belly button retracted, slide back into down dog. Keep that belly button held in
And we'll keep the breath held out as we come back into tabletop. As you land, release into the breath. Exhale out. Draw the belly button up. As the belly button retracts, you get to the end of the breath, hold it out, and sink back into child's pose. And back to tabletop before you take the breath. Exhaling out. Belly button comes up and we'll lift into down dog. And you're just going to move here through this dynamic breath with a hold. The more energy you contain in that hold, the more we can craft space for the psoas, especially in that down dog lift. But move through this. Think about how the anchor of the shape shifts when you lock in the core. How the anchor of the shape comes to the center of the body. And then instead of moving that shoulder structure back like we normally do, we're expanding from our core towards our hands and towards our tailbone. And let's go through 2 more full cycles here. 2 more versions of child's pose, 2 more versions of down dog. And we'll all eventually meet in child's pose. Eventually just settling into that child's pose. Likely with a lot more space across that diaphragm region. Thinking about how we can transition that space into more depth for our shape. Checking in here with your rate of respiration, right? That is a very challenging breath cycle alone. And then we added movement to it. And so checking in with the rate of respiration, with the heart rate, thinking about the blood oxygen levels and how that may have shifted. And just work to smooth everything out with your breath. Last 25 seconds here. Feels appropriate for you, we'll pull ourselves forward to hands and knees tabletop. Find your base tabletop position, curl your toes, lift your seat, and roll back into down dog. Drive that depth into your down dog shape. And then let's walk forward to the front of the mat. And we'll inhale into half lift. And exhale back into fold. Let your head go here. Yeah, great adjustments. Drift your awareness to your sacrum. Let's roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Coming all the way up eventually into mountain. And as we get into our mountain shape, just thinking about the balance in the toe mounds and the heels, lateral medial edge of the feet. Bring your hands together at heart center. Slow things down. And just slide your left foot back into lunge. just landing in this nice little lunge position and then sweeping the arms up to fully express crescent. Thinking about that neutral alignment and then dropping the hands to heart center and stepping back to mountain. Breathing in mountain. Just a fluid, easy cycle of breath. And then when it feels appropriate, side two, right foot slides straight back. Just landing in that strength of that shape. Sweeping the arms up to fully express crescent. Staying with that neutral torso alignment. Flat neutral back. Dropping the hands and then stepping back into mountain. Interlace the fingers and see if it's accessible to just push the palms away. If that doesn't feel accessible for the shoulders, keep the palms towards you. So arms are extending away, either palms away or palms towards you. Think about how you can stay in this stacked alignment of mountain as you do this. And then just take the arms up and overhead. Good full lift here. And then exhale through forward fold. Let the head go. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. As you release into fold, let the head go. Plant your hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. Get the depth all the way into the back edge of the shape. Down to hands and knees, tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Eventually, this young boy is through primary school and into that middling high schooling range, and he continues to just fly through every bit of academia, eventually graduating and going on to university. And finding just a little challenge at the university level as he did previously. The university level, he often relates best to the professors. Last 15 seconds here. Pull ourselves forward to hands and knees, tabletop. Curl our toes, lift our seat, and find down dog. Pedal out, experience that posterior chain length. And then we'll walk our way forward to fold. Inhaling into half lift. And exhaling back into fold. Drift your awareness to your sacrum and we'll roll ourselves up vertebrae by vertebrae. Eventually finding mountain. Bringing our hands together at heart center. And we'll slide our left foot straight back into lunge. Thinking about keeping this neutrality and really maintaining that torso alignment Exhale out. As you do, draw the belly button back. We're going to lock that in. Just feel the lock in. So breath is held out here. And then receive the inhale breath. One more time. Exhale out. Draw the belly button back. At the end of that exhale, just hold the breath out and keep that belly button tucked in. And then inhale in. And we'll step back to mountain. Oh, just relaxing. Think about the potential asymmetry left to right. And let's take this to the second side. Right foot slides straight back. Once again, just thinking about this anterior, posterior neutrality. Exhaling out with the breath held out, belly button pulled and retracted back. We just hold the breath. When it feels appropriate, we inhale. Exhale out. Belly button pulls back. Hold the breath out. When it feels appropriate, we inhale. And then we'll step back to mountain. Interlace the fingers, push the arms out in front of us, either palms away or palms towards us. Exhale out, and as you do so, pull the belly button back. Belly button held in, breath held out. Take the arms up and overhead. And then release and take yourself into forward fold. At the bottom of the fold, take the full exhale breath and sink your way into the shape. When you get to the bottom of the fold, when you've released completely, think about just using your breath, not holding, but using your breath to pull the belly button back and find or carve out more space to fold into. And then we'll inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. And roll or sweep our way back up into mountain. Establishing the neutrality of mountain, the stability of mountain, and bringing the hands together at heart center. Check your rate of respiration, check your heart rate, get everything back to that homeostasis point. Really relaxing into this structurally safe shape. And then when you feel relaxed here, let's slide our left foot straight back. Move into that front quad, get the depth into the hips of the shape, stay neutral in the torso. Exhale out. As you do, draw the belly button back and hold the breath out. With the breath held out, belly button back, take the arms straight up towards the ceiling. And then inhale and release. Hands back to your sternum. Exhale out, belly button back. Hold the belly button back as you take the arms up. Inhale and release. And just step back to mountain. Soft, easy release here. Once again, we're looking to get back to a neutral in the body, right? We want to be relaxed and at ease. So mountain here, almost a place of safety. When it feels appropriate, let's take this to the second side. Our right foot slides straight back. We land here. We find the stability of the shape. Then we exhale out and pull the belly button back. With the belly button held and retracted, take the arms up. And then inhale the hands back to the sternum. Exhale, belly button back. Arms up. Inhale back. Step. Mountain. Interlace the fingers, push the arms out. Exhale out. Take the arms up. Inhale into your release. Yes, all the way into that fold. Nice work. Inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. As you settle back into that fold, think about using the breath to hollow out that belly space and draw more room to sink into. And then we'll plant our hands, walk our way back into down dog. Get all the way back into down dog. And down to hands and knees, tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. Easy, fluid, anchored shape with an easy, fluid, delicate breath. Give ourselves about 30 more seconds here. Just settling, anchoring. And so this young boy is kind of a young man now. He's still relatively young though, because he skipped so many grades. And he starts asking his professors where he might be able to learn more. And all of them keep coming up with this same answer. This old, wise woman who lives in the woods. Not the answer he is expecting. When it feels appropriate, let's pull ourselves forward to tabletop. And from tabletop, we'll roll the toes, lift the seat, and find down dog. Drift your way back into the full depth of your down dog. And let's walk to the front of the mat. We'll inhale into half lift. Exhale back into fold. See if as you fold, if you can feel that space in the psoas, that space around the diaphragm, allowing for more depth, like the torso itself has expanded. And then we'll drift our awareness to our sacrum and roll or sweep our way up into mountain. From mountain, drift your hands behind you and interlace the fingers. But interlace doesn't work. You can just grab the glutes. But really thinking about a broad shoulder girdle here. So we've worked a lot of vertical torso space. Let's work a little bit of lateral torso space here. Broad shoulder girdle. Maybe even give the elbows like a subtle little bend so that they can hop out just a little bit. Think about the width of your shoulder girdle as you step your left foot back into lunge. Staying with the neutral torso, smoothing into that front quad. And then if it's accessible, push the elbows back and lift the chin towards the ceiling. Now, this can take a lot of energy across that anterior shoulder girdle, across the anterior shoulder stabilization musculature. Find the exhale portion of your breath and see if you can use that to relax and gain space. And we'll bring our head back to neutral. Release the arms and sweep them up into crescent, and drop the hands to heart center and step to mountain. Relax and feel that shoulder space. Oh. Hands slide behind us. We interlace or grab the glutes depending on how the shoulders feel, how much room the shoulders have. Think about the width across the shoulder girdle, and we'll slide that right foot back. Neutral torso, wide expansive space. See if it's possible for you to draw the elbows back. Is it possible for you to lift the chin? Generally, one side or the other will have some more tension. Kind of a wonderful way to see the entanglement between the hips and the shoulders. So you're likely either on a side that feels much more free or much more restricted. And then bringing the head back to neutral, sweeping the arms up to crescent, dropping the hands to heart center, and stepping to mountain. A lot of shoulder room here. Sweep the arms up and overhead. Exhale through forward fold. As you settle in, a lot of shoulder room, a lot of mid-torso room. How can we use that? Can we pull the belly button back? Can we continue to sink further and further and further into folds? And then let's plant our hands. We'll walk our way back into down dog. The tabletop. Flip the tops of the feet and sink back into child's pose. We land in child's pose. We breathe freely and easily. Last 15 seconds here. When it feels appropriate, let's pull ourselves forward to tabletop, extend our legs straight out in front of us, find a little staff. From staff, just follow that forward into a little seated forward fold. If you can use your shoulder space, your torso space, to drop into some additional depth. We'll give ourselves just 30 more seconds here. When it feels appropriate, bring ourselves back up. Vertical spine, nice tall staff, and then lowering straight onto your back. Letting your body just be received here. Think about how the torso is being supported into this neutrality. Think about how the lumbar is sitting neutral. And then if the knees aren't bent, let's bend them so the kneecaps can point towards the ceiling. And add a little dynamic rotation here, a little unwinding of the upper and lower half of the body. Just moving with your breath into these twists. Moving in a way that is both impactful and beneficial for you. The next time that the knees come over to the left, let's let them stay there. Just settling into that twist. And so after hearing about this old woman in the woods time after time after time, this young man finally says, okay, fine. If that's the person with all the knowledge, then that's who I need to go to complete my education. And so he gets a map out to her house. He heads out into the woods. He finds it right away. He's very good at geography and topography. He confidently strides up to the door, knocks on it 3 times, just opens it and walks in. And she's startled. This young man has kind of walked into her home, and he introduces himself and just says, I'm here so I can complete my education. And she's taken aback by this whole experience. And so she sits quietly for a moment. She gets up, she goes over to a cabinet, and she starts rummaging through it. Bring our knees back to neutral. Find that balance alignment Let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide. Little supine butterfly. We won't be here super long. The anterior expansion work that we did around that diaphragm really helps to create room for this external rotation of the hips. So you may feel like the hips get wider than they might normally, or you might expect. When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees back to neutral. And then we'll let both knees fall over to the second side, the right side. And so she's rummaging through this cabinet and she finally pops back up and she says, aha, here it is. And in her hand, she's holding this very simple, very plain clay jar. Has a little lid that sits on top. And she hands it to him and she says, aha. And he looks at it and he looks back at her blankly. And she chuckles and she says, it's a magic jar. And he looks at it again and he opens the lid and it's empty, puts the lid back on, and he looks at her blankly. And she says, every time you learn something, it will begin to fill. I want you to fill this jar. And he kind of rolls his eyes at her. And she sees what's going on. He doesn't believe her. She says, follow me, follow me. And she brings him over to her library. She pulls down a book and she says, read this paragraph. He reads the paragraph. Now look in the jar. And sure enough, he opens the jar. And in the very bottom of this very small little clay jar, there's this like mist, like a aerogel type thing. It's like translucent and there, but not necessarily there. But he can see it. There's something in there. And she says, every time you learn something new, more will be added. Fill this jar and bring it to me. And he kind of scoffs. He's like, well, this is going to be easy. I read a paragraph. I can already see it. I'll fill this jar by the end of the night. So he hands her back the book and he says, well, I'll see you very soon. And he rushes out the door. We'll bring our knees back to neutral. Find that balance. Let the bottoms of the feet come together and the knees fall out wide one last time. Just settling in here. When it feels appropriate, let's bring our knees back to neutral. As you kind of reconstitute that neutrality in the body, ask yourself if there's anything that you might want, that you might need, that you could benefit from prior to Shavasana. And if there is, let's offer that to ourselves now. And if you have everything that you need,
If you're ready for some stillness, let's just drop ourselves into a shape where we can appreciate Shavasana.
wasn't long before this young man realized that there was something very funny about this jar. Because while it was true that with every piece of information he intook, more of this stuff was added to the jar, he could never get it full, no matter how many books he read, no matter how many plays he memorized, no matter how many studies he took part in, no matter how many lectures he gave. The jar would never fill up, not all the way. Years passed, and he became a famous academic. People would praise him as being so brilliant. People followed him around and hung on his words. But the jar would never fill up. Finally, after years and years, he went back to this old woman. And he said, I can't do it. Why, no matter how hard I try, can I not fill this jar? And she said, have you ever looked at the bottom? He pauses, he turns it over, and sure enough, very clearly carved into the bottom, there's a little hidden hole. And he says, I don't understand. Why did you do this to me? You told me to fill this up. She says, you were never meant to fill the jar. You were meant to understand it. And he just looks dumbfounded by this. Kind of mutters out all of this time. And she says, well, you wanted to be smart, but you never stopped to understand the task. The jar was never something for you to complete. It was a question for you to sit with. And with that, the man kind of quietly stared off into the distance. Let's start to bring a little movement to our fingers and our toes, into our wrists and our ankles, into our elbows and our knees. Shoulders, hips, neck and head, jaw, eyes, tongue. Eventually, the entirety of the body moves. And we'll utilize that movement to transition from the shapes we are in back into a seat. In the seated space, spine gets tall, breath gets fluid, eyes closed. And we'll inhale our hands together, heart center. Over the course of the next 7 days, can you maintain a clarity between the intelligence to understand and the desire to be smart? And see how that impacts your experience. Thank you so much for being a part of this evening's practice and for being you. Namaste. Appreciate you guys so much. Have a beautiful week. I will be back on Sunday to recharge, and we'll do this again next Monday. Love the heck out of you. Mwah. Take care of yourselves.